Yo, party people. Okay, number 2, December 18th. All right, so we left off with, we're in John chapter 11, and we left off with Jesus arriving at the scene of Lazarus's death. And Martha had met him, and she was proclaiming him to be the Messiah, right? So now we're in verse 28, and it says, when she had said these things, this was Martha, she went her way and secretly called Mary, her sister, saying, the teacher has come and is calling for you. As soon as she heard that, she arose quickly and came to him. Okay, and then it says, let me just finish this. Now Jesus had not yet come into the town, but was in the place where Martha met him. Then the Jews who were with her in the house and comforting her, when they saw that Mary rose up quickly and went out, followed her, saying, she's going to the tomb to weep there. Okay, so there's some things going on here I just want to call to your attention. So when Martha called Mary secretly, that's because there were people there that were enemies of Jesus, without a doubt, right? So they were not all friendlies. So she wanted her to know and to tell her privately, right? So that she could come out. This was something that they were discussing in private. So like when Martha met him, Jesus did not go into the town, right? Because he knew that he had enemies there. And like his disciples said, they had just been preparing to stone him last time he was in Judea. So they didn't want him to go back to Bethany. But he came anyways, but Martha met him outside of town. And then Mary came out. So they're thinking that Martha's the oldest, Mary's the second, and Lazarus is the baby, right? The youngest. So then, of course, the Jews, the enemies of Jesus, followed her. Like I said, some of these are professional mourners. Some of them are just people that show up, for this kind of event. So then Mary, so they said, she's going to the tomb to weep there. So they followed her. So verse 32, when Mary came where Jesus was and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying to him, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. So one of the other things that they wanted to call to our attention in the study Bible was that the difference in their personalities. You can really see how Mary, they talk about Mary being at the feet of Jesus. Here she falls down at his feet. Martha's more practical, like the older sister, organizing everything. And so just some interesting personality perspectives that come out when you really take a moment to look at the different verses. So she's declaring very similar to what her sister Martha said, right? So clearly they had been talking about this. If only Jesus had been here, if only Jesus was here, this wouldn't have happened, or he would have been healed. Clearly they had talked about this. So verse 33 says, therefore, when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her weeping, he groaned in the spirit and was troubled. And he said, where have you laid him? So what's really interesting about this verse that I didn't pick up on was that when it says he groaned in the spirit, this is a very unique saying. So if you trace, like I said, the Bible Step app, if you take this language and you trace it back and what this means, he is pissed. He is not happy. What he's seeing here and what is his response is, he's seeing, of course, he loves this family, right? And he sees how they're genuinely weeping and so upset. And he sees the hypocrisy of those that are there with them, pretending to weep and doing this fake stuff, right? And he does not like it. Jesus, God, the Father, Jesus hates hypocrites and hypocrisy. Where have you laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. Then it says Jesus wept. Probably the most famous verse in the Bible. One of the most famous. Jesus wept. You can memorize that one. Then the Jews said, see how he loved him. And some of them said, could not this man who opened the eyes of the blind also have kept this man from dying? So here there's another dynamic going on. So there are clearly people in the crowd that love Mary and Martha and Lazarus and are in Jesus's camp, right? They're kind of not against Jesus. Then what this is saying is, could not this man who opened the eyes of the blind also have kept this man from dying? Remember, when Jesus opened the eyes of the blind guy, this confounded everybody. Nobody knew what to think of this. People were calling him a devil, demonically possessed. But the man and everybody knew that, demons can't do that. It's never been heard of from the foundation of the world. And the guy whose eyes were healed said that. No one has ever healed a man blind from birth and given him sight. No one. So that memory was still in everybody's mind. Everybody was like freaking out about that. So here he's talking about raising someone from the dead. So they're saying here, some of them said, could not this man who opened the eyes of the blind also have kept this man from dying? So they're being sarcastic. They're saying he waited 2 days because he couldn't do it. That somehow he tricked everybody with the first one, but this is that he knows he can't do it, right? So they're being very sarcastic and negative. So verse 38 says, then Jesus, again groaning in himself, So again, it's the same language. It's the same situation where he's hearing the people that are positive and he's hearing the people that are saying all this negative stuff, and it's upsetting him. It's pissing him off. Then Jesus, again, groaning in himself, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay against it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the sister of him who was dead, said to him, "Lord, by this time there is a stench. He has been dead 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not say to you that if you would believe, you would see the glory of God?" Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead man was lying, and Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me, and I know that you always hear me. But because of the people who are standing by, I said this, that they may believe that you sent me." So again, he's saying, I am only doing what the Father does, right? I am only operating on the Father's behalf and doing the Father's will. I and the Father are one, right? That's what he's saying there. Now, when he heard these things, he cried with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come forth." And he who had died came out, bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was wrapped with a cloth. Then Jesus said to them, "Loose him and let him go." So, as many of you have probably heard in many preaching circles, that the reason he said, "Lazarus, come forth," he calls him by name, is because if he didn't, all the graves all over the world would have opened up and people would have come forth, right? So that's kind of cool. Okay, so now we got verse 45, the plot to kill Jesus. Then many of the Jews who had come to Mary and had seen the things Jesus did believed in him, but some of them went away to the Pharisees and told them the things Jesus did. So a lot of times people infer that because this had a bad response, right, a bad outcome, you're going to see here that they want to kill Jesus, that the people going to tell the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the Sanhedrin and everybody about what Jesus did was negative, that they were tattling or whatever, that they were trying to get them in trouble. In fact, a lot of people believe that the reason they were going there was to just give them more information, to give them an accurate account and to have this explained to them, right? No one's been able to explain what happened with the blind guy. So now he's raising someone from the dead. That's unheard of. Nobody does that. And so they're seeking counsel, they're seeking guidance, and they want to make sure that they have a right account. So that's what people believe, is opposed to them going and tattling. But there were people there that, were against Jesus, of course. So then 47, then the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered a council and said, "What shall we do? For this man works many signs. If we let him alone like this, everyone will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and nation." Okay, so now here they're not talking about him breaking the Sabbath. They're nothing like that, breaking the law. It's all about their position and authority, right? And again, these people are supposed to know who the Messiah is. That's all they're supposed to be focused on, is preparing for the Messiah, preparing for the Lord's return, and they are blinded. They don't see it. So that it says, and one of them, Caiaphas, being high priest that year, said to them, "You know nothing at all, nor do you consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and not that the whole nation should perish." Now this he did not say on his own authority, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the nation, and not for that nation only, but also that he would gather together in one the children of God who were scattered abroad. So that would be us Gentiles. The other thing that they mention is that the Sadducees, who do not believe in life after death, were really upset, because this is everything Jesus is doing is proving them wrong, and what they're seeing, but the language that's used here about how everyone's believing in him, it's people that did not believe were beginning to believe. People within their councils were beginning to believe. And so it's showing the verbiage is a continuous believing. So a continuous, like a wave beginning to roll. At first it was a few people, and now it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and more people are perplexed and beginning to question their authority and what they believe because of what Jesus is doing. So it's not just that more and more people are believing in Jesus. By believing in Jesus as the Messiah, they're beginning to question their authority, right? So again, it's a double-edged sword regarding their authority. They're worried about losing the official authority given by Rome, and that they've operated in within the community, but then they're also concerned about losing the respect and authority of the people, right? And I'm almost out of time. And so then Jesus prophesied. So we know that in the past that other people have prophesied. He prophesied without even knowing it. And furthermore, it states that the priesthood now has been somewhat corrupted. They're being corrupted by the Romans that are in power. Okay, I'm out of time. So this is number 2. Stay tuned for number 3. Jesus is coming. Read your Bible. Peace.